regardless who is in administration, who the president is, how much information he wanted for whatever reason, Census Bureau, as part of Department of Commerce, we cannot share this information with any other agencies, FBI, CIA, or whatnot, local law enforcement, your HOA. We just can't do it. I mean, we just can't. And so your information that is submitted, it's safe, and the information will be tabulated and send it out as statistics like such. And of course, Census Bureau have many functions, and some of you will have, other than the recent decennial census survey, you have probably received something called American Community Survey. And this is a really long, like 70 plus questions, really detail how much money you make, and where you're from, what language do you speak. And this is used to as a way to help Department of Commerce to have a demographic information like the one I'm showing on screen, and for business purpose. So we use this data to work with corporate, all business, land developer, companies, whatever, and to share this information so then they can make sense out of this data. So should we open a new location here? Should we not? And that's American Community Survey. If you have filled that out, good, because this one is also required. And the other survey that is required for the Americans to fill out is the decennial census, which happened once every 10 years. And again, this is the year. And as you can see, going back to the two topics that we talked about the money, the $675 billion distributed will be used for, on the top left-hand corner, for emergency services like police, county hospitals, school, nursing homes. And on the top right, again, you use for data analysis, for business planning, urban planning. And bottom right, you have the fire department allocation for natural disaster, how to prevent things like that from happening. And so all these money are crucial. So that's one of the reasons it's so important to be counted. I know many of you have done so thank you very much for that. But we don't have 100%, I would say, count yet. So that's the one reason we're still pushing it. And in light of the COVID situation, we want to continue pushing it until we have, until the end of the year. And there are many ways you can fill out the census. You can do it online, you can do it over the phone. I would highly recommend do it over the internet. I've heard horrible story, including my own mother, that she waited for almost an hour to fill out census online. So, and then she ended up just hung up. So I actually helped her to do it online for, it takes about 10 minutes online. And by now, you will have received, if you have not done so yet, you will have received a paper questionnaires in mail, and you can do that. And later on, it was scheduled around this time now. If you have not done the census, there will be a census taker to knock on the door and to actually with the tablet, of course they have to come in with a badge and with the, with identifiable marking, Census Bureau to help you do that, which we're trying to avoid. So fill out online, and the form looks like this. And some of these are pretty self-explanatory. And some of the forms in the area where there are large Spanish population, the form will be sent in bilingual. And the important information here is that there are 59 languages available for support. So you can call and get help as like a walkthrough to do it. And if you do it online, there are 12 languages. and Spanish, Chinese, Vietnamese, Korean, Russian. It's all most likely the language that you speak will be available, and if not, then we work with the nonprofit to provide additional help to support that. And like I mentioned, all the reminders it should be already sent out, starting from mid-March to now. So you should have 3-4 reminder you have not done so yet. And so if you don't know where it's at, check your junk mail pile. Yeah. So these are the languages that we support, and to help you fill out the census. And this is kind of like the timeline of the census. There's a congressional talk to extend when we'll be delivering the result to the president, and we're supposed to deliver the result in statistic format on December 31st. But there is a talk that may be extended to April of next year. But so because of that, some of the field operation and also the COVID situation will delay some of the field operation. I'll explain a little more about what that means. And part of the field operation, again, is sending people out, kind of like the picture to the left in the middle, to take the census. But we also have offices. There are 2 offices, one in San Jose and one in Sunnyvale, to conduct the field operation. We plan to hire about 1,500 people from the community to serve the community. And so that way, you'll be like almost talking to your neighbor kind of a deal. So we don't want people to feel uncomfortable when they have to answer the door. And the pay is actually really good. We're paying about $30 per hour for enumerator. That could be a second job, especially now with the record high unemployment. So part of my ask, and I'll talk again later on, is that many of you are connected to different businesses or different nonprofit organization. Just to let them know that Census Bureau is planning to hire a lot of people in the coming months. And so if people that is laid off, just direct them to the 2020 census. It's right in the middle. Apply today. It's 2020census.gov/jobs. And let's see. So the next step, I kind of talked about it already. Remind your friend, family, coworkers, and if you have a business, your employees, that census is not over yet. It is not too late to respond online. And Census Bureau will resume field operation. And this means that group quarter counts. Group quarters are like a living quarter, like think about dormitory. I know that sounds ironic. Nobody live on campus anymore, but guess what? They need to be counted in theory as if they're still there, because that's how the funding will be allocated for the next 10 years. So imagine if a school, all the students are now counted at school. Next year, when the city council is looking at the data, and we know how smart they are with data analysis, they'll be like, oh, nobody's live around this area. Let's cut the police, let's cut the bus routes, let's cut all these fundings. And then we're gonna have a lot of problems. And that problem will persist for the next 10 years. And so that is why part of our operation is to go out to group quarters, campuses, place where homeless shelters, where people actually congregate, people live there, live in quarters, to remind them that even though they may not be living there right now, if they plan to live there majority of the time for the next year or so, they need to be counted. And of course, if you really want to help out, kind of like me, I'm helping out and getting paid at the same time, you could get a job with the Census Bureau. And so this is the part of the presentation I want to share. I also have a screen I want to share as well to show you the resource they're available on the website. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, good. So the website again is just 2020 census.gov, and if you go there to respond online, you just have to click on this. Then it will take you to an online questionnaire place, and then you can start questionnaires, and you can fill it out. So there are people asking me, oh, I already filled it out, so why did I get reminders again after I fill out? So, how is there a way to check, about my submission? I mean, the answer to that is no, you can't. Once you submit it, it goes into this data pool that nobody can retrieve other than the data, the scientists that on the back end, on the headquarters in Washington, D.C. And so if you're not sure whether or not you filled it out, fill it out again. They will cross-reference. There should be a 12-digit code on the postcard from for the invitation for you to fill out. That's to match your address, with they call it the master file, so they can make sense out of your entries. And the other thing about this 2020 census website is that they have a partner area. And so part of my job, again, like Brian introduced, I'm a community partnership specialist, outreach, So my role is to share information with my partner. And some of the organization wanted to, so for example, become a partner. I mean, right now it's a little bit too late to do this because there are funding grants initially allocated for partner with Census Bureau. And the money come from the state of California, not from the federal government. But long story short, is that in this area, if you go down far enough, you have, let me see, we have different census, material here. You can share with the partner that you feel important, that will care about this kind of videos. And the other thing I want to show you is the response rate. So let me see if I can get a refresh. So the purpose of having okay, let me see if I can get in there. Okay, get the state. So
wasn't the response rate like 37%?
No, we're actually doing really well. I mean, I think surprisingly, and then the part of the reason why we believe that we're doing really well is because everybody got stuck at home and then they ended up looking at all the mails and started to respond online. So we have a really good response rate. But again, there are pockets of the, sorry, I mean, it just take a while to load. And okay, where is it? Interesting. Yeah, let me try to refresh it real quick.
So do you know what they do? Do they, if they don't, let's say you get 80% response, which is probably great, but do they pump up the numbers because they know that there's actually more people there and that they didn't hear from? How does that work?
So to the best of my knowledge, that we have a team, they call it the quality, let me see, they call it the quality, let me see, QA assurance team, like a QA team. And their role is to essentially look at all the houses. I mean, so to look at the way that the Census Bureau tracks the residents is really through the address. And so this is the map, a live response map of the 2020 census. The darker the color, the better. So California overall, we're in this blue, right? Like kind of like a middle blue. So we're actually doing pretty well. And but that's based on what we believe the numbers should be. And but again, like to answer your question, if we are missing 20%, of the response. That's actually could translate to lose of revenue. But what we do, we don't take the number as they are. We will actually try to massage it. If we believe that there should be more people, then they will use a statistical analysis trying to arrive at a new number that will closer represent the true population there. So it's not really one-to-one per se. It's really more of a, we have a general idea, like this kind of income level, this kind of a housing will have this many people living in this house, and we have this many houses here. So that's kind of how it looks like. In Santa Clara County, we are actually doing really well. You can see here. And but overall, I mean, doing really well. In my opinion, like for example, like city of San Jose has less than $2 million. I mean, less than 2 million population. I think that, you know, there should be more. So we just want to make sure that we get everybody counted. And that's it. That's all the time I need for my presentation. And I can, if you have any questions, I can stick around and then, you know, answer your question.
Yeah, this is Brian O'Neill. I have a question.
Sure.
I filled out my form online,
Okay.
and I guess it's a really short form. I only asked, you know, maybe
about 10 questions. Yeah.
10 questions. Okay.
Yeah,
and then there was this one about your nationality or something, and sure. I wasn't sure, like, does that mean like if I immigrated from a country, or is that my nationality based on, you know, my father, my mother, you know, and what their grandparents came from? So I put down Irish, German. Is that what's the correct way to do it?
You put down like whatever race that you identify with. We don't really ask for verification, you know, for the most part. And so you really, you know, for example, in the case of, yeah, like, you know, for me, I'm Asian, but, you know, I didn't know until I looked at the 23andMe, my genome profile. I actually have a large percentage of the Pacific Islanders, and I wouldn't have known that. I would have just put down Chinese, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, question. So it would seem to me that the credit agencies and other consumer organizations would have all this data already. I mean, in terms of economics of each household and each individual. Do you guys work with them, or, I mean, is that not done?
So I'm sorry, I missed the first part of the question. So which?
Well, I guess what I'm saying is like, you know, anybody that would live in a house, if they have a cell phone or they have any kind of credit whatsoever.
Oh, credit agencies. Okay.
And the banks and consumer organizations would already have this data on every single American, right? So do you reference with them? It seems like we could get rid of this census group altogether and just rely on that data.
Correct. I think that the truth is credit agencies and a lot of real estate development, they do their own surveys,
yeah,
and they do a lot of pay surveys. And but because of that, sometimes the data they collect may not be neutral. And we at Census Bureau, we are trying to be this benchmark for all these, you know, I would say consumer organizations to reference. And, you know, as you know, we say that this is what people voluntarily give out their data, even though it's required, but they have no incentive to lie in theory.
You know, the other
somebody got a question.
The other thing is too, is would you want the credit agencies sharing your data or who you were or where you were?
I think they already do that.
Yeah, they already do. It's public information.
Right. I mean, but to me, the thing is I could see where, I mean, it would behoove our city government if we had people filling these things out twice and it never gets caught, because then we have, right? Because then it shows we have more people than we really do, but then we get more money thrown our way.
Well, I mean, again, I mean, so the truth is, I mean, we are an independent bureau under the Department of Commerce. We don't even work with DMV. We don't even work with the registered voter office. So we're actually completely independent. And in some ways, it makes my job, much harder, right? and but we're trying to use that as a separate benchmark. And I think that people, if we combine, like you said, right, the driver license, the voter registration, like the student enrollments, if we can collect all those data, we can really make a lot more sense out of what the numbers should be. But at Census Bureau, we actually have to, like, for example, last decennial census, about 2010, we hired 700,000 people to make sure that every door is knocked at least 5 times if they haven't responded. And just to make sure that we are doing this due diligence as a separate, I would say, again, a number. And I hope that answered your question.
So how do you deal with that issue, like at San Jose State, when kids aren't there and you're going to mail them a census and they're not going to ever get it, or they'll just throw it away? I mean, it seems like they would be really hard to track down.
So in the case of, for example, you're absolutely right. I mean, so San Jose State is one of the problem areas. And but with San Jose State, I mean, the good thing is they usually live with somebody, usually with the family members, and or they have families, and so we work with the student, the school student organization outreach to send out newsletters and reminder to ask them to fill out census, and and also same thing with Stanford. I think one of my biggest challenge is actually getting Stanford to respond. They have one of the lowest response rate all around this Santa Clara County. So, but in general, I mean, the low response rate usually associated with the lower income level, but Stanford area, it's just an anomaly in this case.
So I will say this, there's some irony to this, because I went to college in Chico and the city government never wanted us to be able to vote in local elections because they said, oh, you're just coming here for a little while and then you're out. But I mean, if they didn't want us to vote, then we wouldn't be counted and they wouldn't get more resources.
So the voter, again, I think the voter registration is really, you have to be a citizen to vote, and to conduct a census, you just have to be living in the U.S.
Stop it.
That's the biggest difference. And
yeah.
So if you think about, especially here in Silicon Valley, we have a lot of foreign workers, international technical technology workers. And if we only count the people that have green card or citizenship, essentially we'll be sharing our emergency services, public roads and parks with twice as many people that's not a citizen yet, or a green card. So that's why we want to count everybody.
I was wondering, you showed a really detailed form that you fill out with list your income and all those stuff. Correct. Is that going to come later, or is that happening at the same time?
So that happened last year. Let me see. Last year, about, I believe, October timeframe. It's called American Community Survey. And statistically, they pick about like 3% of the population in each area, and to ask you to fill out this really detailed survey. So that's happened on a rolling basis. So every few years, they will move on to a different area to do this kind of survey. So that's an ongoing effort with the Census Bureau. And for me, my job with the department, with the Census Bureau, will be over in about 2 months. So I'm with the department for about 10 years now. I mean, 10 months. So in 2 months, this will be, it's a temporary job, and then I go back to will do what I normally do in corporate.
Okay.
Jerry, you have a question?
No, I'm tapping on the computer.
Howard, I have a question about the jobs.
Okay.
college students who are out or high school, first of all, is there a minimum age requirement? And secondly, how long do the jobs last? Is it going to be another 2 months and that's it? In other words, is it an appropriate summer job for some of these folks, or
Right.
gap year job?
So to answer your question, you have to be 18 or over. And for the job, it's about, I would say that depending on the job, if you apply as a census taker, that's the one that go knock on people's doors. That will be over in about, let me see, we'll start about July, you will finish around, I would say September. And but if you work in the office, then the job may be until, I would say, December.
Okay, great, thank you.
Oh yeah, and
Henry,
then
you have a
one thing is,
question?
Brian, can I ask a question? So we have a lot
Sure.
of flyers that we work with, like a food distribution site, similar to what Rebecca and was doing. Can we drop off some flyers for you to include in the I would say in the food bags? We can work with Second Harvest or the Y to also get permission to do that. But we would love to reach out to some of the lower income community that are rely on food bags, programs.
Sure.
That sounds good.
Where did Rebecca go?
I'm right
She's
here.
right there.
Oh, sorry.
I'll just let you know right now, considering like the circumstances and like the fraud going on and people showing up at doors, like
Right.
I'll tell you, I mean, I've already filled out the census and my family all has, but like I taught my grandma, I'm like, don't open the door. And I'm hearing you say you're going to knock 5 times. That is,
They're gonna knock 5 times.
I'm already annoyed at the fact that you saying that. If that would happen to my grandma,
Right.
So just take that into consideration of, forward thinking of better tactics, and then considering what's happening of people coming to doors of the vulnerable and people like me saying, do not answer the door.
I totally agree with you. That is the reason why I'm pushing online response really, really hard.
Yeah.
And the flyer will tell them, fill out online and nobody will come to bother you.
Sure.
And do you drop off flyers?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can drop off, but just wondering when and at the site, or do I work with you, Rebecca? Can I do that, or?
Yeah, you could just connect with me later.
Okay, sure.
Just
And
to
we'll knock on the door too.
Yeah, just to comment, a friend of my mother's was one of the most intrepid old ladies you've ever met. She was went to house on this sort of thing. Now, her background is her father was a pro-integration councilman in Birmingham during the riots there and so forth. And so it had had segregationists throwing bombs at their house when she was a teenager, I guess. But at any rate, she used to comment about her approach to pit bulls and going up to get a census of a house that appeared to be of drug dealers and things like that. So those jobs are not totally easy in certain neighborhoods where you want to get them.
Right.
Sometimes they're not even easy in the nice neighborhoods. Let's just be honest.
So they're not, and that's one of the reasons why we want to hire from the community, where they are already live in that community and feel more comfortable than outsider.
And yeah, so how often are you updating your system if somebody to fill it out online and somebody is out on the street pounding the pavement? Will they know instantly to pass that house because they just filled it out? Or are they still knocking and annoying them?
So they do have phones and tablets that are linked to the real live response, and I think the live response is updated. I wouldn't say daily. I would say every other day. I don't have a real response from the data team, but then I know that they're updated regularly. So if they filled out, so chances are they will be left alone.
Howard, the Census Bureau office in Sunnyvale is actually in my office building.
Oh, really? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I'm in Suite 103 right there.
Okay, yeah, that's really close to downtown Sunnyvale.
Tell them to go 2 doors down, and they're giving away free haircuts.
You got to come all the way to Cambrian for that.
All right, got it.
All right, thanks, guys.
Any questions?
right.
Paul, Johnny G, have you already filled it out?
What did you say, Jay?
Have you already filled out your census?
6 months ago.
Okay,
Oh, wow.
attaboy.
All right.
Okay,
I hope everybody here has.
Ours were in about 6 months ago too, as well.
is there any other questions for Howard?
Pick my wife.
Thank you for your time.
Howard,
Wait
thank
a
you
minute,
very,
Paul-
very much for that information.
Hold on,
That's great.
Paul was saying something. Paul
Okay.
was saying something.
Well, I was going to say something about Paul.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, Paul, I didn't do it last week because I was at a 8th grade thing, but I wanted to wish you a happy birthday last week, last Wednesday.
That's right. Very
And I
much.
also want to point out the fact when you do your Zoom calls in the office, you don't get a nap in. I don't like that.
In the corner right here. Yeah.
I like it. I mean, the nap is good, but
All right.
okay.
All right.
Anything else?
That Brad that looks like a.
Okay. Venezio again. Good seeing you again. We miss you. All right. We'll see you guys all later, and look for information on a awards banquet. Tanner, I love the haircut. And Peter, there was a comment. Have you ever watched Breaking Bad?
Oh my God, you already said bye. Why are you starting a new
He
conversation?
looks like the guy from
I gotta
Breaking
go.
Bad. Goodbye.
I love you guys. Bye.
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 Adios.
You're a mess, Ken. You're a mess.
Thank you, Brian.
All right. See you guys later.
Yeah, bye-bye.
Thank you, Howard.
No, that was great.